Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Issei got Yinglong, Ddraig and Albion Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more awesome content and subscribe my channel and like this video. Go support and follow the JCT1345 for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story, link in the description. Let's start this video. Red Siren's Bleard is a masked individual dressed head to toe in black, carrying a long brown bag on his back, darted across the stone floor of the technologically renovated catacombs. He sprinted at an incredible speed, far faster than any average human was capable. With every exchange of his feet, a gust of wind propelled the next foot forward, as if he was running on air. Stop him. The intruder mustn't be allowed to escape with what he's stolen. A man dressed in white cried out as he desperately chased after the masked individual, but were becoming increasingly further behind the shadowy clad individual to the point it became obvious that he would not be caught by them. The masked man made a sharp turn down one of the branching hallways and continued until he came across an interesting development. The hallway forked once more. If he continued straight, he came to a large hinge door that had been left open, or he could take a left down a hallway that was more poorly lit. Meanwhile, the men clad in white and decorated with religious symbols had arrived at the fork in the hallway but saw no sign of the intruder. "Should we split up, sir?" one of the younger pursuers asked the man who appeared to be in charge. Before the lead pursuer could answer, whoosh. Slam. A small gust of wind slammed the large open door shut, alerting all the men clad in white. "No. All hands on deck. This way." The entire pursuit team funneled themselves through the door, leaving the hallway empty as the masked intruder emerged from the shadowy hallway. The masked man taunted as he turned and walked back the other way. Later, Rome. Whoosh. Wham. A powerful gust of wind blew a manhole cover off of an empty Roman street, and the heavy piece of concrete came crashing down. Then from the manhole, the long brown sack flew up and out onto the street, followed by the masked man. He bends down to collect his bag before removing his mask. As he pulls the last of the dark material off of his head, a mop of messy brown hair flops out and the man's face becomes visible. He was a male of Japanese heritage who looked to be in his late teens. He had a handsome, well-sculpted face, but his most notable facial feature was his heterochromatic eyes, one being a golden yellow and the other pale blue. The boy looks down at his bag and smiles. "If I'm being honest, this was the easiest fortune I've ever made." "All thief." A feminine voice called out from behind the boy, getting him to roll his eyes. "Turn around and put your hands in the air." The boy does so and finds two young girls roughly his same age, one sporting short blue hair with a single green streak in it, the other had brown hair similar in tone to the boy's tied up in long pigtails, both dressed in the long religious robes the men had sported earlier, and both of whom had pistols trained on him. Seriously, Issei groaned as he put his hands up behind his head. "Oh, he's Japanese," the brown-haired girl enthusiastically exclaimed. "Let me talk to him, I speak his language." "Stand right where you are." She spoke in fluent Japanese. "There's no use running. We've seen your face, we know what you look like." You're welcome," the brown-haired boy joked back in Italian, getting the brown-haired girl to pout before he put his hands down. "Now let me tell you two things. I've been up all night kicking the crap out of every exorcist I've come across. So before you two get embarrassed here, I'm gonna offer the two of you a chance to look the other way, and I might just slip each of you 10% of what I make on this job. And for you pigtails, I might slip you a little something extra if you're interested." His offer was met by the clicking of two guns getting ready to fire. "Well, I tried." Bam. Bam. Both pistols fired and twin glowing balls raced through the air before coming to a stop a few inches in front of the boy's face, much to the shock of the two girls. "I tried to warn you that you'd embarrass yourselves. Laser guns and lightsabers don't work on me. So this is your last chance, give up and look the other way before you get hurt." Is that right?" The blue-haired girl smirked as she and her compatriot ripped off the long robes to reveal both of them were wearing skin-tight black bodysuits, and both of them were armed with swords. The blue-haired girl was equipped with a blue and gold-colored sword, with an axe-like guard and a second grip with a chain-like form connecting the guard with the blade itself being huge and long that ends with 3 points at the end. The brown-haired girl was wielding a much more traditional katana with an almost silver blade. "These sure as hell aren't lightsabers. Now this is your final warning, surrender or we will be forced to destroy you." The boy smirked as he took a swordsman's stance before his yellow eye began glowing, and two shining yellow short staffs appeared in each of his hands. Each of the glowing was about an inch in diameter and about a meter in length. "This may be fun. Grrrr. You won't be saying that when you're a pile of limbs." The blue-haired girl roared as she charged forward, sword in hand, her brown-haired companion following closely behind, but before either of them could get close enough to strike, the boy's blue eye flashed with light and a ball of condensed wind appeared beneath his feet and rocketed him up into the air. "What the hell? He flies." Not really, the boy taunted as he slows his descent with jets of wind coming from his feet. I just have a little boost in my step, he said as he kicked forward and a blast of wind flew out from his foot, knocking the two swordswomen off balance. Badger ha! The blue-haired girl yelled as she was forced to jump out of the way of the incoming light staff. The boy followed up with another swing, but the blue-haired girl managed to block both weapons with her massive blade. That swordsmanship. I recognize the technique. Yeah. This is a sword fight. The boy joked as the two of them locked weapons, neither of them giving an inch, until the man's strange blue eye began glowing once more and blue lightning began to surge through his twin goldenrods. Zap. A huge blast of lightning erupted from their clash, knocking back the blue-haired girl. Don't worry, Zenobia. I'll save you. The chattier brown-haired girl rushed in. Her blade was smaller, so she was able to move much quicker and strike faster than the previous opponent. This different fighting style put the boy on the defensive, as the brown-haired girl was able to take advantage of the smaller weaknesses in her foe's defenses. The brown-haired boy was quick to adapt, merging both of the mini-staffs into a single 8-foot-long pole of light. He showed immediate prowess with this new weapon, spinning the large staff in his hands and blocking the faster strikes with much better results than earlier. He became so good at defending her strikes that she was forced to change her style. Her blows became slower and sloppier as she tried to emphasize power to break through the foe's rapid defense. Her opponent quickly recognized this and decided to play with her. He held out his staff perpendicular to the oncoming blow, and the power of the strike shattered his light weapon. "Ha! I did it," she exclaimed joyfully. "Now surrender or..." "Huh." The shards of light that had made up the spear didn't dissipate, rather they levitated back into the air. Snap. With a snap of the boy's finger, the floating shards hurled themselves at the girl. They were too small, too fast and too many of them to dodge, so the attack hit head-on. The barrage of shards ripped through clothing and slightly cut her skin, not enough to do any permanent damage, but enough to immobilize the foe. Then in his hand a ball of condensed wind formed and he threw the powerful gust into the brown-haired girl's abdomen, knocking her through the window of one of the closed storefronts that decorated the dark street. "Ah, that was fun, but I'm afraid it's time for me to go. I pride myself on being punctual," the boy taunted as he picked up the brown satchel off the ground. Hey. The blue-haired girl shouted as she rose to her feet and weakly lifted her sword into the air, her body still partially paralyzed due to the lightning. "We aren't done here yet. Well, if you're still willing to fight, who am I to deny you? But don't blame me if I actually fry you this time." The boy smirked as sparks danced in his hand, but before he could actually engage his foe, a crack formed in the whites of his blue eyes and a flake of white fell off, revealing darkness beneath it, and suddenly a vicious voice echoed through the boy's head. "Kill them. Kill them all. Do it. Destroy them. Destroy the whole city." "Ah. Crap." The boy clutched the side of his head in pain. "Sorry, but I think I have to end things here." A yellow ball formed in the boy's hand and he threw it down, causing a massive explosion of light, forcing the blue hair to shield her eyes. "Crap. It's too damn bright, I can't see a thing." When the bright light faded, the boy had vanished with his bag along with him. "Damn it. Ugh, what happened?" The brown-haired girl groaned as she limped over to her partner. "Where's that creep? He got away." The blue-haired girl growled as she fought back the paralysis enough to clench her fist in frustration. Later, Rome train station. "Excuse me, but I'd like a ticket for the next departure to Paris." The same brown-haired boy asked the booth attendant. He was now wearing a baggy sweatshirt and a dark pair of sunglasses to hide his eyes. "Oh, and I'd like a luxury suite, please." "We can certainly do that, sir, but to request one this late will cost a hefty amount," the attendant warned. "That's fine. I'll pay whatever price as long as I'm in Paris tomorrow." The boy smiled. Later. "Well, here is your room, sir," a man dressed as a butler said as he opened the door for the boy, letting him in. The room had a large, well-decorated bed, a fancy dresser and a flat-screen television. "Your bathroom is in the corner and your room service has already been paid for. We'll arrive in Paris at 10 in the morning. Enjoy your stay." The butler quickly exited the room and the brown-haired boy tossed a brown bag he had been carrying, as well as a large gym bag, onto the bed before rushing to his bathroom. The boy rushed up to the mirror and removed his glasses, revealing cracks on both of his eyes. Man talked about how unattractive the boy joked as he pulled out a little white bottle from his pocket. He opened the bottle and pulled out a dropper and applied a few droplets of the strange liquid in each eye, and the crack slowly closed up. Better. He then entered his room and leapt onto his bed and pulled out a smartphone. Then he sent a text to an unknown number that read, "I'll be in Paris at 10 tomorrow, meet me at the spot at 11. The boy sighed as he began relaxing in his bed. Almost done, he mumbled to himself before he began to let his mind roam as his eyes began to close. "My name is Issei Haidu, and I just robbed the Vatican, one of the most heavily guarded areas on Earth, and my dumbass only thought to take a couple swords." Issei opened his eyes just to glance over at the sack he had just fought so hard to defend. Better be worth it, even though I'm pretty sure they keep the cross somewhere in there. Issei closed his eyes once more. Guess it doesn't matter now. Today it's just another job well done. The next day in Paris. Issei sat alone sipping a cup of coffee at an outdoor table affiliated with one of the many cafes that decorated the City of Lights. He was dressed much more fashionably for Paris, stylish, well-fitting clothes and a pair of high-dollar sunglasses that is heterochromia, and on the ground next to him was the brown sack from Italy. Ugh, Issei growled as he checked the time on his smartphone, which read 10:35. Issei stuffed his phone back into his pocket and crossed his arms. Screw this, he growled as he reached down for his sack. Wait. A fat man sporting glasses, dressed as a priest, with grey hair and a grey mustache, ran up and took a seat at Issei's table before he could leave with his treasure. Heh. 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 The large man wheezed as he struggled to catch his breath. Heh. I'm sorry I'm late, there was a. I got it, Issei interrupted, lifting up his sack and opening it just enough to show off the glitter of the pristine metal blades. Where's my money? The large priest's eyes widened with excitement and he quickly pulled out his own smartphone and rapidly started to tap at his screen. Check your phone, a transfer's just been made to your account. Issei lifted his phone, and when he went to check his account, he had to drop his sunglasses to verify the numbers he was seeing were in fact genuine. Without so much as a word, he immediately handed over the swords. Excellent. The priest's eyes marveled at the swords now in his hand. After all they did to discredit me, I can finally. The priest was once again cut short as Issei shoved his index finger in his face. I don't need to hear it. Issei declared. If you care to do business in the future, let me know, but now I need you to leave. Issei said as his eyes shifted to a pair of girls around his age, both of whom shot the boy a smile, and one went as far as to wave at him. You're cramping my style. Issei got up from the table and began to follow after the girls, but after walking for a few minutes, it appeared as though he had lost them. Well, that's Issei muttered to himself when suddenly BATA. His phone went off, a message from an unrecognized client. When he opened it up, all he saw was an address and a hotel room number. Another job already? Issei hardly looked fazed by this, he simply placed the address into his map application and began to follow the instructions. Later. Issei stood silently in front of his destination, the door in front of him numbered 666. Seriously? Issei looked down to check if his address was correct before letting out a disappointed sigh and knocking lightly on the hardwood. Knock. Knock. Creak. The door slowly opens and standing in the threshold is a beautiful, shapely woman with sparkling silver hair dressed like an old Victorian-era maid. You're the thief. Yeah, Issei muttered as a bead of sweat dribbled down the side of his face. He felt awkward because this is the first time he'd ever spoken to a maid. Right this way. The maid gestured for Issei to enter the room, and the boy did just that. As he entered, he noticed it was no ordinary hotel room, it was a massive luxury suite, and the entryway led to a large, well-decorated living room. Wait here. The maid gestured to a large couch in the center of the room. My master will be with you in a moment. Master, huh? Issei thought as he looked around the extravagant room. I don't know about that master shit, but can't argue with the way the guy likes to spend his money, and from the looks of it, he's got plenty to spare. Lucky me. Just as Issei began to picture the size of his future paycheck, a door on the other side of the room opened up and a large cloud of steam emerged, followed by a handsome man with long, wet crimson hair, dressed in nothing but a towel wrapped around his waist. Issei, hi, do? The man asked with a large friendly smile plastered on his face. I see you received my message. The crimson man eagerly approached the young thief and gave him a once-over. Your eyes, so it is true. Something about the man's appearance, the way he spoke and what he said seemed to trigger something in the young thief's brain. Devils. Oh, very perceptive of you. The crimson-haired man said with a grin. My name is Serziches and I am indeed a devil. That wouldn't happen to be a problem, wouldn't it? Not normally, but something about this whole thing is giving me the creeps. Might have something to do with your lack of clothing, but can't say for sure. Devils usually only come to me when they want something they can't get on their own. Which either means it's really hard to get or some other devil already has it. Issei rolled his eyes before pushing himself up off the couch. Normally I'd accept any request for the right price, but I just scored the mother load on my last job and don't feel like breaking and entering into some crazy place to steal some random piece of junk from some crazy place, and I really don't want to screw around with devils. Rafia, why don't you give our new friend here an idea of how important this job is to me? The crimson-haired man said with a smirk as his maid walked up behind the boy and whispered a number in Issei's ear that made the boy's jaw drop before he immediately retook his seat. Glad to see I've kept your attention. Now here is what I want you to do. Later, Kuo, Japan. Seriously, Issei groaned in his head as he sat on a tree branch a few meters away from what appeared to be an ancient school building that appeared to be covered with greenery and complete with its own little clock tower. The brown-haired boy's yellow eye was glowing as he stared through one of the building's windows. By enhancing light waves, Issei managed to create a natural telescope, and he used it to spy on the inhabitants of the school building. Inside there were 3 individuals. The boy around Issei's age with a blonde hair, blue eyes and a handsome face. Next to him was a woman with long black hair tied up into a ponytail and a curvaceous build, and finally another busty young woman, sporting familiar-looking crimson hair. All 3 of them wore matching school uniforms. On this job it's likely you'll find a group of young devils. Surzich's voice echoed in Issei's head. If you're discovered, it'll likely lead to confrontation, and this group can be formidable, especially if they feel threatened. It's important that you wait for them to exit the building before you proceed. Issei looked behind him and noticed the sun was beginning to set. He let out an annoyed sigh before focusing back on his observation. Come on, high schoolers don't have homework or overbearing parents, the big game, unplanned teen pregnancies or any other stereotype to participate in. Issei's vision wandered to the red-haired girl's chest and his face turned slightly pink. Damn devils, he muttered. What are you doing? An unknown voice asked from behind him, getting the boy to jump. When he turned around, he found a small girl with short white hair sitting behind him on the branch. Wait a minute. Issei called out. I made it so the light can't reflect off of me, how can you see me? Issei called out in confusion as he was in fact invisible to the girl. I can't see you. She muttered back. But you've been sitting in this tree all day so I can smell you, and you're talking to yourself so I can hear you. Sniff. Issei lifted his arm and took a whiff of his own stench and immediately made a grossed out face before he dropped his pointless invisibility. Fine, what now? Why are you spying on us humans? The girl asked as she crept ever closer. You answer me honestly and I might not have to hurt you that bad. Hurt me? Issei thought as he stared down the tiny devil. Yeah, right. If I wanted to, then you'd be barbecued by now. Devils don't really like light. Issei smirked as his yellow eye began to flicker, but it quickly faded along with the boy's smile. But Surzich's voice once again appeared in Issei's brain. If confrontation does arise, you are by no means to kill or injure any of them. Keep the lights turned down. Fine, we'll do this the hard way. Phew. Issei took a deep breath before his blue eyes began to glow. Whoosh. Issei exhaled and a massive gust of wind erupted from his mouth, knocking the small devil out of the tree and far away from him. Well, that was easy. Issei decided as he leapt down from his tree. Guess this means my cover is blown, no need to continue the sneak attack. Issei said as he headed for the door to the schoolhouse. Halt. Issei stopped in his tracks as a new challenger called to him, then out from the old building emerged the blonde devil, along with the dark-haired one. This is as far as you get, trespasser. The handsome boy declared as he summoned a sword from thin air. Ha! The devil cried out as he charged towards his foe. Swordsman, ha! Issei constructed a sword of his own made of solid light and quickly blocked the blonde boy's attack. Clang. I'm getting pretty sick of sword fighting. Issei growled as he created another light blade that he used to knock the devil back. The sacred gear. He can control light. The blonde called back to his ally. Keep your distance. Right. The dark-haired woman said firmly as a pair of bat wings sprouted from her back and she quickly took off into the sky. Flying's not the best idea here. Issei smirked as his other eye began to glow blue before a powerful gust of wind came out of nowhere and threw the black-haired devil down into the dirt, and another gust of wind came from the side and knocked her into the side of the school building. No way, the dark-haired girl groaned as she struggled to lift herself up out of the dirt. Can he control the wind? Leave her alone. The blonde devil called out as he charged towards Issei once again. Nope. Issei cried back as he lifted his hand towards the charging foe, and another blast of wind began to encircle him, but this time was different. Chilling winds began to circle around the swordsman, and frost began to form across his blade, then soon over his entire body, freezing him solid. Devils can't survive being frozen, right? Issei wondered. You'll pay for that. The busty devil called out. She lifted her arm into the air and lightning began to dance across the sky. Take this. She called out before she brought down a large bolt of yellow lightning. Bad move. Issei taunted as he lifted his hand out in front of the lightning bolt, stopping it from striking him and forming it into a baseball-sized orb where it changed from yellow to light blue. Looks like the lightning likes me more than you. He smirked before sending the large supercharged lightning bolt back at the devil. Zap. Ah. The lightning knocked the raven-haired beauty out of the sky and rendered her unconscious. Issei walked over to the grounded devil and placed 2 fingers on her palm to check the girl's pulse. Whew. She's fine. Issei let out a sigh of relief. I was scared I almost lost a heavy-duty paycheck. Issei's eyes returned to the school building and his mind refocused on the task at hand. Almost there. Creak. Issei pushed open the old schoolhouse doors and entered the dark building. A strong light began to shine from Issei's yellow eye, illuminating the dark rooms and corridors that filled the old building. Issei continued through the building, keeping an eye out for any enemies. There's one devil left, and I doubt she got the message and decided to abandon ship. Just then he came across a room with a large wooden desk at the back of the room. Bingo. You'll find a large desk somewhere in the schoolhouse. Instructions continued in Issei's mind as he walked over and opened one of the desk drawers. There you will find what I'm looking for, it'll be a book with a lock on it. Issei pulled the book in question out of its shelf, and on the front cover read diary, and this caused Issei to raise an eyebrow. Seriously? I guess the customer's always right. Issei shrugged as he dropped the book into a drawstring bag and tightened up the opening. Oh? And just who might this customer be? Another unfamiliar voice called out and Issei turned to find the red-haired devil blocking his doorway with a peeved look on her face. Sorry. Issei smirked as he threw his bag over his shoulder. Customer confidentiality is a big deal in my particular field. I'm afraid I can't divulge such information. Clearly you have no idea who you're dealing with. The red-haired devil announced as a deep crimson aura formed around her and a ball of dark red energy grew in her hand. I am Rias of the House Gremory and you will answer my questions. You could be the devil herself. Issei said as he formed a ball of yellow light in his hand. This still won't end the way you want it to. I don't know why my creepy client wants a high school girl's diary, but he's gonna pay a pretty penny for it and that's all I really care about. I'd back away if I were you, you're too pretty to end up devil jerky. Issei smirked as he threw down his light ball and a massive flash of light erupted from the ground. Hiya. Ria shrieked as she covered her face to shield her eyes, but at the same time she accidentally let her crimson magic fly and it collided with the ground near Issei's feet. Bam. Whoa. Issei cried out, pulling his foot away from the small explosion, but this set the boy off balance and he started to fall forward at the same time the red-haired devil ducked down to avoid the blinding flash. The series of awkward movements resulted in a smooch. Issei looked up to find his lips pressed up against the red-haired devil and his eyes quickly widened. HMMMM. Issei quickly threw the girl off of him and began rubbing his mouth. What the hell do you think you're doing? Issei cried out as he immediately ran as far away from the girl as he could. What do I think I'm doing? Ria said as she stood up and dusted herself. You're the one who spent all day spying through my window before you attacked my family, all with the intention of stealing my diary, and now you assault me, and you dare claim to be the victim here. Huh. Riaz looked up to find small tears welling up in the boy's eyes. Seriously? Sniff. Issei quickly whipped the tears out of his eyes and took a moment to compose himself. I just thought it'd be different, okay, sniff. You know, somewhere on a beach somewhere. Maybe on the top of a Ferris wheel, but now my first ever was stolen by some hell monster. You can't actually be serious, Riaz groaned with a roll of her eyes. If it makes you feel any better, it was my first too. I appreciate you trying, but there's no way I'd believe that. Issei argued back. First of all, you're gorgeous, like probably the most beautiful person I've ever seen. Issei blurted out. Oh wow, thanks, I guess, Riaz muttered, awkwardly looking around the room. Second, you're a devil, right, so that probably means you're like 1,000 years old or something. Issei followed up, getting a much different reaction from the scarlet-haired girl. Whoa. Zap. Issei just managed to jump out of the way of an incoming crimson magic blast. Crap, I almost forgot we were fighting. Issei said as he gripped his bag tighter. I'm 18 by the way. Riaz cried out as she fired blast after blast of blood-red energy, but Issei managed to stay one step ahead of each attack. Sure, Issei taunted as his blue eyes began to glow. If you say so. With that, a miniature tornado erupted from Issei's hands and blasted it into Ria's chest, knocking her down the hallway until she went crashing into a wall and fell unconscious. Oh wow, Issei muttered as he looked down at his hands and immediately became overwhelmed with guilt. Oh crap, was that personal? Sorry, Issei said before turning to one of the windows that decorated the walls and blasted it open with another strong gust of wind before looking down at his bag and smiling. Time to get paid. What are you doing? A voice echoed in Issei's mind and he suddenly clenched the side of his head. Then, against his will, Issei's head suddenly began to turn towards the unconscious Riaz. She's right there. The voice continued. Destroy her. What? Why? Surzich has told me I'm not supposed to kill anyone. Issei argued back. Who the hell are you anyway? Destroy her. Do it. The strange voice roared louder this time. Who are you? Issei repeated himself. Why do you want me to? Whack. Before he could finish, Issei felt a sharp pain in the back of his head before he suddenly dropped to his knees and then fell unconscious. Behind him stood the small, white-haired devil from before, but now she carried a long piece of pipe like a bat that she dropped as soon as Issei went down. Payback's a bitch, the small girl declared as she wiped her hands off. Later. Ugh, my head, Issei groaned as he slowly began to open his eyes. The boy looked around to find himself still in the room with a large wooden desk, but he was now seated on a small chair, but on the ground beneath him, he found a small, red magic circle spinning in rotation. Issei got up off his seat and tried to walk forward, but when he reached the edge of the magic circle zap. The magic current shocked Issei and sent him stumbling backwards into his chair. Ugh, damn it, devil magic. Well, look who finally decided to wake up. Ria said confidently as she, along with the other 3 devils, sat comfortably on a pair of identical couches directly in front of the captured human. I have a few questions that you're gonna answer for me. Issei looked over to the window and noticed the sun was up outside. Hey, shouldn't you kids be at school? Issei smirked until his eyes fell onto the small white-haired devil. You. He pointed to the small girl. You hit me in the back of the head. That's a totally cheap shot. While the girl taunted back as she opened up a magazine and began to browse the pages. How about you cry about it more, see if that helps. Ahem. Riaz interrupted the small feud that was slowly beginning to grow between the two. First off, tell me just who you are. Sure, the name's Issei Haidu and I'm 17 years old, and that's in human years. Issei said, shooting a sly face the red-haired devil's way. Most people would call me a thief, but I'm more a multifaceted, all-purpose businessman. I do most things for the right price, but that excludes murder, birthday parties and well other nasty things, but that's enough about me. What are your names? I'm Yudo Kiba and I'm in my 2nd year here at Kuo Academy and the night under Ria's Gremory. The blonde devil was the first to answer, much to Ria's dismay. I'm Akeno, the queen, and I'm a senior. The black-haired devil said with a smile. Kaneko the little devil followed, not looking up from her magazine. Rook. Oh, I get it, chess. That's cool. Issei said in a friendly voice. I guess that makes you king, huh? Issei said, turning to Riaz with a large smile on his face. That's enough. The scarlet-haired girl raised her voice. Okay, Mr. Haidu, just what do you think you're doing here in my domain? I'm here to steal your diary. I thought we already covered this. Issei said as he looked to the other devils for confirmation that he was repeating himself. And just why are you trying to steal my diary? Riaz continued, quickly getting annoyed by this interrogation. Cause the guy who hired me is some crazy, rich, weirdo, Issei said as he looked around the room taking notice of all the gothic art. Creepy. Now I'd like you to tell me the name of this rich weirdo. A vein on Ria's temple began to bulge in frustration. Sorry, can't tell you that. Issei answered quickly, getting the red-haired devil to ball her fist in rage. Look, you devils do your little contract things and grant sad people wishes or whatever, and you're not supposed to break that contract, right? Well, I have a contract too and I'm not gonna break it. It's bad for business. What if I were to pay you to divulge said information? Riaz proposed. It's not exactly stealing, but you did say that you were multifaceted, right? I guarantee whatever this guy is paying you, I'll be able to beat that price. Sorry. Issei said as he raised his hand to stop Ria's offer. My skills may go to the highest bidder, but my loyalty is strictly first come first served. You don't bring customers back by stabbing them in the back. So you at least understand the concept of integrity. Riaz said as she crossed her arms. Let's see if that ideology holds up after you haven't eaten in a few days. She said as she made her way to the schoolhouse door. Come on, we don't want to be late for class. The other 3 devils quickly followed behind her. Issei looked around his tight confinement and a bead of sweat began to roll down his forehead. Days. Hey. Where's everybody going? Click. Slam. The lights went off and the door was suddenly closed, leaving Issei sitting alone in the darkness. Guys. Ugh. What the hell is that guy's problem? Riaz groaned as she and her entourage slowly made their way over to the main schoolhouse. Something about him really pisses me off. He certainly is quite the character, I'll give you that. Kiba said jokingly. He certainly dragged you through the ringer, didn't he, Prez? In his defense, you are remarkably easy to tease. He, Akeno said with a slight chuckle that made Riaz blush. The character? Teasing. Riaz's eyes began to twitch. He broke into our clubhouse. He made us look foolish in combat and nearly succeeded in robbing our home base. I can't believe the 2 of you aren't furious. Don't get me wrong, I'm definitely upset that I lost and being turned into a devil-flavored popsicle was pretty embarrassing, but I saw him create weapons of light and yet he didn't use them for anything other than blocking my attacks. That's how I know he wasn't really trying to hurt any of us, so I guess it's harder for me to fault the guy who was just doing a job. Kiba said with a smile. His job was to rob us. Riaz reiterated. I agree with Kiba, if this guy was trying to hurt someone, then he could have done it. If anything, I was amazed by his sacred gear, not only is it ridiculously strong, but I've never seen anything like it. He can manipulate light, wind, ice and lightning. What else can this guy do? Akeno said, getting Riaz to grit her teeth, and the black-haired devil picked up on this. Though I suppose if it were my diary, I'd probably be a bit more upset. I wonder if he skimmed through it. Hopefully nothing too embarrassing was written in there. This isn't about my diary. Ria shrieked. Oh, this is because you two had accidentally and he got freaked out and threw you off and called you an old lady. I guess I'd have been pretty offended if I lost my virginity that way, but hey, look on the bright side. At least he's cute. Akeno continued to taunt until whack. Ow, Akeno groaned as a knot formed atop her head. It's time for class, Riaz muttered as she walked through the school doors. We'll deal with him later. With Issei. Eyes. Issei yelled. Alright. I give up. I'll tell you who hired me. Guess they're really gone, lights on. Issei declared as his yellow eye flashed with golden light and immediately illuminated the room. I knew I was dealing with devils, so luckily I came prepared. Issei smiled as he fished a small bottle of clear liquid out of his pocket, the label read holy water. Bye bye magic circle. He said as he emptied the bottle onto the ground and the crimson circle soon shattered. Ha! I'm a genius. Issei, feeling confident, moseyed over to the large wooden desk at the back of the room and placed his hand on the large drawer. Dear diary, today I became rich as Hook. Issei roared as he found the drawer was noticeably bookless. For real? I should have known they moved the damn thing, but this drawer is full of nothing but junk. Issei groaned as he picked up a small red pawn piece from amid the clutter, but suddenly the strange figure began to glow. Ugh. Issei cried out as he dropped the piece back where it belonged. That's enough of that, no use sticking around here anymore if the book is gone. Issei carelessly walked out the front door and luckily for him there happened to be no one standing guard. And now to make my flawless getaway. Issei said as he squatted down and a powerful surge of wind began to fly out from beneath his feet and then he leapt, the powerful winds carrying him through the air and away from the creepy old schoolhouse. Later. Crash. Issei fell face first into a bush located in a nearby park. Ugh, damn landings. Issei groaned as he dusted himself off. So what now? Issei began to stroll through the park, the whole time plotting out his next move. There's too much cash on the line for me to bail on this job after one setback. At least now I know I won't be able to half-ass this thing. I learned the hard way that going at night is probably not the best strategy going during the school day while they're out of the nest, but that will probably have to wait. They'll be scrambling around like ants once they find out I'm gone. I need to find a place to lay low for a bit until they calm down. They'll probably search all the hotels, so I'm gonna need something to find something more permanent, but nothing that raises any eyebrows, so I can't just go buy a house out of nowhere. An apartment would be perfect. I'll give those devils a couple weeks to cool off, and then I'll make my next move when they least suspect it. I guess I can put any expense I incur on this job on that freaky devil's tab. Issei was preoccupied mulling his plans over in his mind and wasn't paying attention to where he was walking. His negligence would eventually result in a collision. Oof. Issei fell down on his butt and when he looked up he noticed a pair of snow-white panties directly in front of him. Whoa. Issei exclaimed as his face turned a bright shade of red, but he soon realized the panties were attached to a person and he quickly got up to offer his aid. Come on Issei, get your mind out of the gutter. Are you alright? He picked the small girl up and was immediately met by two large green eyes and a wonderful floral smell. Holy cow. It was a young girl with long golden hair that went all the way down her back. She wore a nun's robe, but her headpiece had fallen off during her collision with Issei, and the young boy went down to pick up the piece of fabric. Oh thank you, she said with a soft and gentle voice, bowing her head to the young man. I'm so sorry, I wasn't looking where I was going. I guess apologizing is pointless, you probably can't understand me. Italian. But what is she doing all the way out here? Issei thought to himself before handing the blonde girl back her clothes. No problem, I speak Italian well so don't worry about it. Besides it was my fault I bumped into, I clearly wasn't looking where I was going. The young nun stared back speechless, but before long a bright smile formed across the girl's face. Can you understand me? And I can understand you. The girl cheered with excitement. Oh, wonderful. This must be a blessing from God himself. She exclaimed as she grabbed both of Issei's hands with her own. I think I'll just chalk it up to good luck for me. Issei said as he awkwardly pulled his hands back. I'm Issei, it's nice to meet you. Hi Mr. Haidu, I'm Asia. Asia Argento. She replied with a bright smile, but her face soon darkened as she made a nervous expression. I know we just met and all, but I could really use your help. You see I'm new in town, and I seem to have gotten myself lost. I can't read the street signs and until now I haven't been able to ask anyone for directions, but I was hoping you could show me how to get back to the local church. Church huh? If I follow this holy sister it'll probably keep my scent clean from those devils, at least for the time being. Plus I really want to help this girl out. I wonder why. Issei thought before shooting the young girl a reassuring smile. Well, I'm new here myself, but I can read the street signs. Let's see if the two of us can't do this thing out together. Asia nodded happily to Issei's proposal. Right. Let's do it, and the two teenagers walked through the park for a few minutes before they came across something that caught the blonde nun's attention. Wow. A small boy sat on the sidewalk bawling his eyes out, his knee was scraped up and bloody, and next to him stood a small group of other children, and one of them held a small soccer ball. Clearly the boy injured himself playing sports with his friends. It's alright, Asia said comfortingly as she bent down in front of the boy and placed her hands out in front of the child's injury, then two silver rings appeared seemingly from nowhere, one on each of her hands. Don't worry, everything's gonna be alright, she said as waves of soothing green magic began to cascade down from her hands and over the boy's leg. Before long the small scrape began to close up and heal, and the child's tears stopped. Boys shouldn't cry, they need to show girls how strong they are. Asia's words got the young soccer player to wipe his face dry. A sacred gear? Issei thought as he watched the nun at work. I can't understand why the Vatican would send someone so special all the way out here, they tend to like to keep anything of value locked up for themselves. Weird, the boy muttered to himself. Later. Issei and Asia spent the remainder of the day walking around the small Japanese town, the whole time they spent laughing, chatting and getting to know one another. They eventually reached Asia Church, but by then the sun had already begun to set. I guess we should have just used the map on my phone in the first place, huh? Issei asked nervously as he slipped his smartphone back into his pocket. Maybe, but then I wouldn't have gotten to know you as well as I do now. I prefer things the way they turned out. Asia said with a smile that made Issei's face go beet red. I had a lot of fun today, I hope I get to see you again soon. Yeah, I hope so too. Issei smiled back, but something about it was disingenuous. Sorry Asia, but I doubt I'll be seeing you again. Issei thought sadly. Well, I better get going. I need to find a place to stay before it gets too dark. Issei waved Asia goodbye and the two parted ways, and when Asia was eventually out of sight, Issei's stomach let out a loud growl. I guess before buying an apartment, I should probably get something to eat. Later. Belch. Issei let out a large burp as he walked down a quiet city sidewalk in the dead of night. Ugh, I guess I overdid it. Issei groaned as he placed his hand over his stomach. They should change the signs from all you can eat to all you should eat. Issei joked to himself. The boy continued down dark streets, the only light coming from his phone screen, as he looked through an online catalog of local apartment listings. Guess I shouldn't have expected to be able to buy a fully furnished apartment past midnight, looks like it's a crappy hotel bed for me tonight. Nowhere fancy though, I gotta stay somewhere that the devil princess wouldn't feel comfortable searching for, which means a gross crappy hotel bed for me, Issei thought, as he passed a shadowy figure dressed in a trench coat and fedora, standing beneath a lamppost. Oh shit, here we go, Issei said as he noticed the menacing aura that radiated from the dark figure. Hey kid, the shadowy man called out as he stepped out from underneath the lamppost. Didn't anyone tell you it's not safe for kids to walk around alone this time of night? He roared as a pair of black wings sprouted from the man's back, and he created a large glowing blue spear in his hand which he threw at Issei. Before the spear could come within 5 feet of him, Issei stopped the weapon mid-flight using his yellow eye. Sorry pal, but light attacks won't work on Woe. Issei was interrupted mid-taunt by the winged man attempting to make a flying tackle, but at the last minute Issei leapt up into the air, aided by a powerful gust of wind. Whoosh. That's it. Enough of this shit. Issei roared as his first began to surge with powerful blue lightning, but generating that much magic power caused the whites of Issei's blue eyes to completely disintegrate, leaving just a ring of blue swimming in a sea of darkness. Whoosh. Another strong gust of wind pushed Issei down quickly, and he used this momentum to punch the dark-winged man in the back and shock the large man with thousands of volts of lightning. ZAPPP. HHHHGGGG. The fedora-wearing man roared before he dropped to the ground, his body smoking. What the hell is going on in this town? Issei said as he walked past the fried man. Devils, magic, nuns and now fallen angels, oh well, it's none of my business. Issei said with a shrug before he walked by a store window and noticed the condition his eye was currently in, and a sudden feeling of dread crept over the boy. Oh crap. Hey there Issei, the creepy voice once again began to speak in Issei's head, getting the boy to sweat. How about you and I have a little chat? Oh crap, Issei muttered in a fear-shaken voice. Ha-chink. Issei unlocked the door to his hotel room and quickly made sure every light was on as bright as they could possibly be before he placed a chair in front of the bathroom mirror and took a deep breath. Okay, I'm ready, let's talk. What are you doing? The dark voice asked from inside Issei's head, getting the boy to jump out of his seat. Alright. Show yourself. Where are you? Issei jumped around the room in search of this voice, throwing up his hands in a fighting pose. I know martial arts. I'm in your head, idiot, what have you been thinking this whole time? The voice answered back, getting Issei to make a face of embarrassment. My bad. I always thought you were this little evil demon who kept following me around and whispered evil thoughts in my ear. Issei said defensively as he took his seat back. Speaking of which, lem guess. You want me to destroy the hotel, right? Then the entire city while I'm at it? No, but that is something we need to discuss. Issei watched himself in the mirror, and he learned that every time the strange voice spoke, both eyes would glow their respective color. It may be hard to believe, but the voice who has tried to inspire death and destruction from you is not the same voice that speaks to you now. Really, my bad. It was an honest mistake, but in my defense you sound exactly the same. Issei argued back before crossing his arms in frustration. I hoped I could explain things to you in the traditional manner, but something tells me you're going to be difficult to talk to, so I think it'd be better just to show you. Hold on. Show me? Hold on, what are you gonna do? Issei shrieked as he watched his reflection. The whites of his eyes began to crack and fall off until both of them were reduced to black orbs that held a yellow and light blue ring respectively, but it didn't stop there. Soon even the glowing rings of color began to flicker and fade until there was nothing but blackness and thud. Issei fell out of his chair and onto the bathroom floor, completely unconscious. Flashback. A man with bright blue eyes, dressed in dark tattered robes, stood alone in the middle of a grassy field as he looked up into the afternoon sun, his hand shielding his eyes from the damaging light. Where are we? Issei's voice echoed through the air, though his body was nowhere to be seen. We're in the past, about 2700 BC give or take, the voice replied, but the cloaked man didn't seem to notice either of their presences. That man's name is Yangdi. He's a well-respected wizard who's mastered control over the weather, but he has always greater ambitions, and this is the moment he acts on them. Just then the cloaked figure, using yellow chalk, began to draw a strange pattern on the ground beneath him, and before long, he had scribbled a large, elaborate magic circle into the grass. The man stepped back and the strange magic circle began to glow, before a massive amount of light began to rain down from above and onto the magic circle, creating a towering pillar of light. As if the sun itself was drained, the day turned to night as the spell finished. Arrow ao arg. A large roar echoed through the air as the beam of light stopped, and suddenly out of the magic circle, erupted a massive Eastern-style dragon that appeared to be made entirely out of burning light, complete with a long string-like Fu Manchu mustache, as well as a massive, brilliant pair of golden wings. And that is the dragon god who possessed dominion over the sun, Yinglong. The voice explained as the wizard and the dragon began to converse, though what they said was inaudible, so the mysterious voice provided context. The old dragon was dying, and the young man desired greater power than what he had already achieved, so the two of them made a pact. The old dragon, who wasn't yet ready to die, would transfer his consciousness, along with his power, to the young wizard in exchange for extending his life. Just then the dragon was reduced to a ball of light that was soon absorbed by the wizard, changing one of his eyes from blue to golden. This is a similar method to that the Christian god used when creating a number of the traditional sacred gears. The setting changed to the interior of a magnificent palace, and the wizard was now dressed in glamorous robes, all of which were golden both in color and in decoration, and the heterochromatic man sat alone on a brilliant throne. The wizard used his newfound power to conquer the different kingdoms that made up the area we now know as China. He was known as the Golden or Yellow Emperor, and it appeared as though the pact he made with Yinglong proved fruitful. After 100 years as emperor, the wizard didn't appear to have aged a day, but things had changed. In the beginning things were peaceful, but as the years passed the darkness in the emperor's heart would grow to be unrivaled. Villages were burned to the ground if deemed less than necessary, and thousands were put to death for so much as speaking out against the emperor. The people of China, fearing the emperor's cruelty would be as immortal as his body appeared to be, requested the assistance of the immortal fighting Buddha son Wukong and his partner Yulong the Jade Dragon. The young man with a face covered in hair and a long brown tail carrying a crimson pole entered the palace and faced off against the emperor. The setting changed once again, and now a massive golden dragon with beautiful shining wings faced off against the fighting Buddha riding on the head, an equally massive glowing green eastern dragon, and the two glowing serpents clashed, resulting in an explosion of white light. Why? Issei yelled out as he woke up with his face pressed against the bathroom floor. Ugh, I'm back, Issei groaned as he pushed himself up. The emperor was defeated, but the pact he made with Yinglong was too powerful to be broken by death. The voice continued, once again startling the unexpecting Issei. The emperor's eyes became one of the first sacred gears in existence, but being primitive as it once had a downside not found in most of the god-made sacred gears. The powers shared by Yinglong and the wizard can only be passed down through people who share blood with the Yellow Emperor. Wait, so are you telling me that I'm related to the Yellow Emperor of China? That's pretty cool. Issei said as he flashed a self-important smile across his face. Yeah, you and about 500,000 other people. The voice said back, whipping away Issei's smile. Don't worry, you're still a special case. Like most sacred gears, it's almost a miracle that your powers were even manifested, not to mention how young you were when you awoke, and rarer still is that you were born with both eyes in your possession. This is the first time that's happened in nearly 2 millennia, and that's where the problem occurs. If you had been born with one eye or the other like a majority of the past wielders, then you wouldn't be able to communicate with myself or my counterpart. Alright, I think I get it. The angry voice is the Emperor or the Wizard. Issei pieced together as he scratched his chin. Which means that you are the dragon. My name is Yinglong, I'm glad to finally be speaking with you. The old dragon answered. Yeah, finally, Issei reiterated. So why now? Would you decide to speak up today, of all days, why not 6, 7 or 8 years ago? I've watched you waste your talents and dishonored my talents for almost a decade now, and it only dawned on me that with your personality and the way you conduct yourself certainly hasn't helped things. You're still not entirely to blame. I figured it was time to inform you just how important you and your abilities are, so maybe you'll realize just how much of an insult it is that you use my once divine power to commit petty theft. Whoa, who would have guessed that an ancient dragon god could act passive-aggressive? Issei replied with a roll of his eyes. Petty theft, Issei scoffed. Tell the Pope I'm a petty thief. See what he has to say. Well, clearly you don't understand, and I'm partially to blame for that. To a dragon, pride comes before everything else, but you didn't know this, so I can't blame you for the way you've acted. I was negligent with your development, and it's evident. You don't even know how to use your abilities at this point, and I take responsibility for that. I don't know what I'm doing. And the way I have chosen to spend my time has been embarrassing and dishonorable to the dragon living in my head, who only now chose to speak up about things. After 9 years. Issei plopped down on his bed and a cloud of dust went shooting up into the air off of his covers. Well, I'm so sorry. Don't worry about it, things will be different from here on out. The training might be intense, but I'll teach you how to use your power and help shape you into the wielder you were born to be. Issei's eyes widened. Oh my god. I was being sarcastic. You don't think I know what I'm doing? Ask those churchy sword chicks, all those high school devils, or that big ass fallen angel son of a bitch, if I seemed out of my element while I kicked their asses. Tell me how long you can use your light powers alone and your storm abilities simultaneously. Yinglong pointed out, getting Issei to go silent. Did you know you can return your eyes to their original appearance without the use of those ridiculous eye drops that fallen angel gave you? What about your balance breakers? You've been at this for a relatively long time. Do you even know what a balance breaker is? Alright, a light. I get it. I don't know as much about this shit as I probably should. Issei relented. But I do know how to fight, you can't even argue about that. Maybe you know how to fight for a human, but you have no idea how dragons are supposed to fight. You know martial arts, you understand breathing and the proper way to position your feet, and which strikes are effective in which situations, but technique and discipline, that's not how dragons fight. Dragons fight with emotion, they fight to win. You fight to keep from getting caught, you go only as far as you need to, if it means you can keep running away with whatever you might have stolen that time. For real, dragons combat is an art, for you it's a tool. Okay. I'll let you teach me how to fight and crap in my downtime if you quit shitting on me, okay? Deal. Why is fighting such a big deal anyway? There are no other dragons around to kick my ass right now. I'm not just gonna start picking fights with random dudes like some dumbus Shounen protag, if that's what you were thinking. I don't know what Shounen is, but you're right, I don't expect you to pick fights with random people, that's what psychopaths do. I noticed something strange upon entering this town, something to your credit you yourself noticed as well. Devils, the church and fallen angels all in the same city. I fear if things here continue to escalate, this town may become ground zero in another massive conflict featuring the 3 warring powers. If that happens, you and I both will be thrust into the conflict in some form or fashion. The same will be true as every other active sacred gear wielder, not to mention countless other deities and mythologies that have nothing to do with devils, angels or fallen angels. If that happens, you'll be grateful to know what I'm offering to teach you. Or? Issei muttered before he quickly realized something. Asia. Issei rushed over to his hotel window, unhooked the latch and opened it up. If war is brewing here, then that means Asia would be caught up in the middle of all of it. The nun. Yes, she likely could be an early casualty, but don't let her demeanor or the church's peaceful propaganda fool you. They are just as likely to be the cause of any upcoming conflicts as either of the other 2 factions. Not Asia, she couldn't hurt a fly. Issei leapt from the window, using a strong gust of wind to catch himself before he could splatter on the concrete below. She doesn't deserve to get caught up in some bullshit war caused by a bunch of old dot. So what are you gonna do? I don't know yet, but knowing me, it'll probably be awesome and totally work the way it's supposed to, without any negative drawbacks or unexpected complications whatsoever. Later. Issei stood up on the roof of a large warehouse that appeared to be long abandoned. This is the place. I thought the nun lived at the church across town, why did you decide to come here? I was going to the church when it dawned on me that I had no idea what I would say to Asia. I can tell her that the church she dedicated her entire life to, that preaches peace on earth, would be willing to participate and might even be planning to start a war that could endanger millions of human lives. It's either destroying her worldview or she think I'm crazy. Plus there's always the possibility that you're wrong and everything going on is just a coincidence. Issei explained as he shot a laser from his yellow eye that he used to cut a small circular hole in the tin roof. Clang. The metal circle made a sharp sound as it hit the ground. Issei followed the tin circle down but caught himself with a gust of wind on the way down. Then I started to feel this uneasy feeling that I only get when I'm around something that's really bad news. Usually I ignore it, but this time I figured that in this town, it'd lead me to something devil or fallen angel related. I wanted to see for myself just what was going on here before I jumped to any end of the world conclusions. What's this? A cute little human has stumbled into my lair. A woman appeared in front of Issei and began to look him over, as if she was assessing her foe. The whole time she kept her lower half hidden. Oh yes, you are a handsome one, aren't you? In fact, you look good enough to eat. The woman roared as she revealed her lower half. Her torso rode atop a monstrous body with beast-like legs and claws, a snake-like tail and a massive gaping maw over her stomach. Issei winced at the sight of the hideous creature. I knew she was some kind of monster or something, but my god, I wasn't expecting that. Yeah, she's freaky. Though technically she's not a monster, she's a devil. Devil, huh? Issei smirked as he stared the monster down. Well, that makes things easy then. Issei said before firing another laser from his yellow eye that blasted the monstrous right through where her heart would be if she were human, then thud. The devil fell dead to the ground without so much as another word. Oh shit. Issei cried out as he stared at the monster's lifeless body. I knew that was gonna hurt her, but I didn't think it was gonna kill her. I mean, she's a sentient being with thoughts and feelings. Crap. Issei's eyes widened as he realized something. Oh shit. I'm not supposed to kill any devils while I'm in town. What if she was part of that Ria's chick's peerage or whatever they're called? Damn it. If that Surzich's freak finds out about this, then I can that massive paycheck goodbye. And that's not the only problem. I sensed the presence of 4 more devils somewhere in the area. Yinglong pointed out, getting Issei's face to go pale. 4 devils? Issei muttered. Oh, don't tell me. So it was my brother who hired you? A familiar voice filled the warehouse as Akeno, Kiba and Kaneko appeared from behind some of the rubble and clutter that decorated the warehouse, surrounding Issei. You know, that actually makes more and more sense the longer I think about it. Ria said as she flew down in front of Issei. Brother? Issei muttered to himself. No, you're right, that does make a lot more sense. Should have guessed, cause of the hair. I knew if I had someone follow you around after you escaped that you'd eventually meet up with or somehow contact the guy who hired you, but to your credit you kept quiet and don't worry, she wasn't one of mine. Ria smiled as she walked by and gave Issei a condescending pat on the back. In fact, I was worried I'd have to drop surveillance on you and deal with Miss Visor here myself, but luckily things worked out and you went and dealt with her for us. We really appreciate it. Very neighborly of you. Akeno added with a smile that made Issei's blood boil. So you followed me the whole time? Issei asked, feeling ashamed that he hadn't figured it out by them. Yep, we saw it all. Ria smirked. From your romantic stroll with the pretty nun to the argument you had with the dragon. Living in your head. I was the one who took care of that fallen angel you left smoking in the street. I also want to thank you for that, by the way. If I had dealt with him myself, then there could have been a whole slew of problems I would have had to deal with, but since a human like you did it, I'm blameless. Why the hell are you even here? Just to gloat. I already did your dirty work for you. You could just take that information and go, let your brother know you're onto him and not clue me in at all. Issei said back, quickly getting fed up with the crimson-haired devil. And now that you're here, what's stopping me from blasting holes in you and all your devil friends? My deal with Surzich's is regardless, might as well make you pay for it. Issei said as his eyes began to glow. No, I'm not worried about you hurting me. Riaz answered confidently. I'm a sentient being with thoughts and feelings, and I'm not even trying to eat you. Riaz pointed out, and Issei's eyes quickly stopped glowing as he knew she was right. And I'm not here just to gloat. Riaz said as she approached Issei. I'm here to offer a deal. I won't tell Zechas you spilled the beans, and I'll even let you bring him my precious diary. Your record and your integrity remains clean and you get to cash in. I'm not making a deal with any devil till I know exactly how much I'm paying. Issei declared, crossing his arms as he did so. Tell me what you want. It's simple really. Riaz smiled as she put her finger under the boy's chin and forced him to look her in the eyes. I want your soul. Riaz lifted Issei's chin with her index finger to make sure that his eyes were locked on hers. It's simple, I just want your soul, the devil said with a confident grin. I want you to join my family and be reincarnated as a devil in my servitude. What do you say? What? Are you kidding? Issei answered with an awkward grin before he pushed the girl off of him. Sorry, but maybe it's just that you guys don't know me that well, and I came off so charming when we first met, so you probably don't know this about me, but I don't really play well with others. Issei smirked as he walked past Riaz, who simply rolled her eyes. I travel the world to steal things. The only thing I look forward to in life more than the adrenaline I receive after I've stolen $1 million item from some heavily guarded facility is the $1 million paycheck I receive from delivering said item. If I start serving you as a devil, I'll have to give that all up. Maybe, but if I let it become common knowledge how easily you let my brother's name slip out of your mouth while on the job, that lifestyle you appreciate so much might be taken away from you. Riaz pointed out as she crossed your arms. But I don't think I'll do that. Riaz snapped her fingers and her diary appeared out of nowhere and she tossed the book into Issei's hands. If all you are and all you aspire to be is a thief, then I don't need you in my peerage. This is however a going away present. Even if you don't intend to put it to any use that benefits anyone other than yourself, your sacred gear mixed with your personality could be a problem in the future. Riaz declared as a magic circle opened beneath her feet and the rest of her group began to huddle around her. You have 2 days to leave. I don't need someone like you in my town. Don't worry about the nun, if there really is something dangerous going on here, then she really wouldn't want someone like you trying to protect her. You seem more like the self-preservation type. Then in a flash of bright crimson light, Riaz along with the rest of her devils disappeared, leaving Issei alone in the wrecked warehouse. The boy just stared at the area the devils had been standing only a moment before, then his eyes slowly drifted down to the small locked book in his hand. What the? Next morning. 1 2 3 Issei counted out loud as he warmed himself up with one-handed push-ups. Issei was training alone in the middle of the forest. Issei wore a tight workout shirt that better showed off just how fit he was. 4 5 6 Issei continued to count, meanwhile his mind was racing. Damn devils. You can't tell me when to leave. I'll leave whenever I want. I'm surprised you haven't left already. Yinglong chimed in as Issei continued to do push-ups. Why are you still here anyway? You have your book, you can go collect your reward. I expected you to be dining on overpriced French food by now. I haven't left because I still have a bad feeling about this place. No way I'm leaving Asia here alone until I know for sure it's safe. Issei explained, having finished his 10th push-up. You sure do care a lot about a girl you've only had one conversation with, whatever, it's your life. What I'm truly surprised about is just how good of shape you are in. Yinglong pointed out, getting a confident smirk to appear on Issei's face. Issei then began to balance the entire weight of his body on one hand before pushing off and throwing himself into the air and landing with a flip. I know, right? I'm a perfect human specimen. I don't even really. Though physical strength was never my concern. Yinglong pointed out, getting Issei to pout. Don't take it personally. The sacred gear you possess is so ancient that it doesn't have the same limits placed on it as the newer models, which has been an issue in the past. To sum it up, your abilities aren't restricted based on your physical limits, all of my power has been open to you since you awakened all those years ago. The only reason you're limited is because you have no idea what you're doing, and those ridiculous eye drops you've used have served to numb your natural connection to your own power. Yeah. It's not my fault I didn't know how to make my eyes go back to normal until now. Issei argued back. If physical restrictions aren't a problem, then what exactly do you want to accomplish with this training? I already told you, I'm going to teach you how to effectively use your sacred gear. You could activate your balance breaker right now and be gifted near divine powers, but you have no idea how to do it. You don't even know how to use the powers you have already properly. Yinglong explained, getting Issei to roll his eyes. Okay, big shot. If we're gonna be serious about your training, then you'll need a sparring partner. I want you to create a light mannequin. Light mannequin? The body made of solid light. Because I live in your subconscious, I'll be able to project myself onto this artificial body, and I'll be able to spar with you. I don't know if I can do that. This is my first day. Issei shrugged as a 7-foot pole made of light appeared in his hand. I can create something like this out of solid light, maybe a little pointier. Issei said as a sharp tip appeared at the end of his now spear. That's about it. Only because you lack imagination. I've already told you that you possess the necessary power, but you limit yourself mentally, and that's what I want to focus on when it comes to our training. Your first goal is to create a light mannequin. Alright, I'll give it a try. Issei put his arms out in front of him, and light began to gather. Before long his creation began to take shape, and then the body of a man, standing 6 feet high, appeared before him. Haha. I did it. Well, almost, the statue of light spoke in Yinglong's voice. The light mannequin began to hop around, but its body didn't move otherwise. You forgot joints. I can't move. Joints, you didn't say anything about that, Issei groaned, placing his hands over his face as the mannequin was reduced to shards of light before disappearing entirely. When you solidify light, then it becomes solid. You can't really spar with a statue, can you? Worry not, with practice this will become child's play. So let's get back to practicing. Issei tried nearly a dozen more times, but each try came out either imperfect or incomplete, never quite getting it. He wasted the whole morning on what appeared to be fruitless practice. Shit. Issei roared as he threw his hands down in defeat. Don't lose heart yet, partner. The root of your failure lies in more mindset than technique. You're too focused on every detail. You're creating a natural living thing, it needs to flow naturally. You're human, you should know how it's supposed to be even just from instinct alone. You're acting like a man, letting thought take control of your actions. You need to start acting like a dragon. Dragons act on emotion, let your feelings do the talking, and your powers will do the rest. Okay, I'll give it one more time. Think like a dragon, think like a dragon, a dragon. Issei repeated to himself over and over until he was sure he had gotten the thought process down, but just when he was ready to try again. Beep beep. Issei's phone went off, and when Issei went to check the device his eyes bulged out. Oh crap. What is it? There's an open house at that apartment building I was looking into last night, and it's starting in an hour. Looks like that's all the training for the day. Issei declared as he stretched out his muscles one last time before exhaling. Thank God, he thought with a roll of his eyes. I heard that, you know. Later in the city. Crap, Issei groaned as he struggled with the map on his smartphone. My open house started half an hour ago and I'm totally lost. Issei eventually gave in and stored his phone away in his pocket. Oh well, might as well find a place to eat while I'm in town. Wait, is that? Issei squinted as he recognized a pretty blonde nun nervously walking around on the other side of the city street. No way. Issei approached the familiar face with a friendly smile, but when Asia noticed Issei approaching her, the girl's face lit up and she rushed over to reunite with him. Oh, Issei. What are the chances I'd run into you again, today of all days? It must truly be one of God's blessings. Yeah, maybe, Issei replied awkwardly. So what are you doing out here? Slow day at the church? Yes, very slow. I was sent on an errand, but I'm sure I was just sent out to kill time, Asia said with a smile, even though she sounded a bit sad. Unfortunately, I ended up getting lost once again. What about you? What are you doing out and about this afternoon? An apartment, Asia asked enthusiastically. You're planning on staying, then you should come and visit me during mass at my church. Pretty please. Sure thing, I'll definitely try to stop by every once in a while. Issei said with a nod. Anyways, I was just about to go get a bite to eat. Care to join me? Then I'll take you back to the church. How does that sound? It sounds lovely. She said with an eager smile. Later, I use part of this in an earlier story if it sounds familiar. The two of them sat at a table at a nearby fast food restaurant as they engaged in small talk. So the church went and made you a saint because of your sacred gear, even though you didn't really want to be one, but when you used it to heal a demon you were banished from Rome, and that's how you wound up with that psychopath. That's crazy, you're still so devout. If I was in your shoes I'd want nothing to do with the church or any of that stuff. Issei asked from across the table. You think that, huh? Asia replied with a sad smile. But the church is my home, they took me in when no one else would. They're the closest thing to a family I have, and believing in God and his love gives me hope even in my darkest times. Issei listened to every word, fascinated by the girl's story. I guess I can relate to that. Issei summoned his sacred gear, transforming his black with one holding a blue iris and the other one being yellow. For a while it seemed that everywhere I went my eyes would cause only trouble, but recently, just like you, I'm learning to make the best of my situation. You have powers too. Asia exclaimed as she marveled at the boy's eyes. Yeah, Issei muttered in a confused voice. Guess I so. Is something wrong? The nun asked delicately, fearing she had upset the boy somehow. No, it's nothing. No one's ever looked at my eyes like that is all. Issei explained as a small smile formed on his face, but he quickly rushed to return his eyes to normal as the waitress approached their table. Issei and Asia continued to chat, now with food in hand. Issei quickly unwrapped the hamburger and bit down into it like it was second nature. Asia on the other hand was struggling. Asia looked over the wrap sandwich multiple times as if he was planning out an elaborate attack strategy, but nothing was clicking. Ahem. Issei pretended to cough to get the girl's attention as he demonstrated how to bite down into the burger. The nun picked up her lunch and in a similar style to Issei, but she put a little too much effort into her bite and the excess force caused a bit of ketchup to spray onto her face. Hahaha. Issei cracked up briefly as he grabbed a napkin. I really am sorry for being such a jerk earlier. If I kept an open mind, I probably would have realized how cute you were way sooner. Issei said bluntly as he wiped the ketchup off her face, but for some reason the red tinge in her skin remained. Thank you, Asia said, lowering her head so that her hair would cover her embarrassed face. Yeah, no problem. Issei couldn't help but chuckle as he sat back in his chair. So what do you want to do next? Next? Asia's eyes began to shine. The two spent the remainder of the day together, they played games at the arcade and then went shopping around town for a bit. The day ended with the two stopping by a nearby fountain to chat a bit more. Issei dropping a coin in the water, per tradition. Well, Asia. I just want you to know I had a really good time with you today. Issei said with a smile, though he was sad that he would have to say goodbye to the blonde nun, even if it would only be for a little while. I had a good time. Asia agreed, though she sounded a little uneasy herself. Issei, are we friends? Friends? Issei raised an eyebrow at this question, getting Asia to cower in fear of the boy's response. To be honest, I don't really have many, but I'd definitely like to consider you one of them. Issei said, followed by a happy grin. The friend, Asia said before bringing her hands in and closing them together in prayer. My first ever friend, thank you, Asia said as she looked up into the sky. Good for you, Asia, an unfamiliar voice called out, startling Issei. Just then black feathers began to rain down from above. Fallen angel, Issei muttered to himself. Get behind me. Issei called out to Asia, who quickly rushed behind the boy's back just as a large scarlet light spear hurtled down from above. Issei lifted his palm forward and his yellow eye turned black, causing the light spear to shatter. Show yourself. Just as Issei demanded, a woman with blood-red eyes and long black hair, dressed in all black lingerie and sporting a pair of raven-like wings, began to descend from the sky above. Oh no. Flashback, 3 months ago, New York. Issei, dressed in high-dollar formal clothing, sat alone at a table at a high-dollar steakhouse, sipping on a glass of sparkling water. Drinking, ages 21. Give me a break. Can't wait to get back home. Issei muttered as a well-dressed waiter nervously approached his table. Sir, the shaking waiter asked. May I take your order yet? Knock hurt. Issei answered as he read the name off of the waiter's name tag. I'll give her 10 more minutes after that. Any money I left here is your tip. Just then the restaurant door opened and a woman with long black hair, scarlet red eyes and a beautiful, blood-red dress, walked in and made her way to Issei's table. I'll take Manhattan, pretty please. She said as she caressed the poor waiter's chin, getting his face to turn red. Why yes, ma'am. Kurt said as he rushed for the kitchen, before the beautiful woman took her seat across from Issei. Hi there, I'm Rainer, it's nice to meet you. She leaned in, finally acknowledging Issei's presence. Nice place you decided to take me to, but if you're trying to get into my pants tonight, you're gonna have to try a bit harder. She smirked, getting Issei to roll his eyes. You're the one who invited me here. Issei pointed out, sounding more and more upset the longer he spent in the restaurant. I assume you're here on business. I'm a busy guy, so let's stay on topic. Okay. Jesus. The dark-haired woman said, rolling her eyes and adjusting her sitting position to reflect her new serious tone. I hear when it comes to your particular craft, you're the best in your field. I also know you owe the Governor General quite a few favors. And you represent Azazel personally? Issei raised a suspicious eyebrow. You could say that. She answered with a grin. Here's the deal, people say you can steal anything, and I was wondering if that included sacred gears. So that's it. Issei's eyes narrowed before he suddenly stood up and walked over to the restaurant door. Wait. The fallen heir called out as she rushed over to catch up with the fleeing Issei, grabbing the boy on the arm to stop him. You have some nerve to walk out on me, human. Zap. AHH. A rush of electricity surged through Rainer's arm, delivering a nasty shock. You can't steal sacred gear without killing the user, and I'm a thief, not a hitman, Issei explained coldly. If Azazel wants anything else, let me know, but I'm not gonna help you kill any hopeless humans. If you're after sacred gear, you'll need to find someone else. I have another job lined up already. Issei pulled away from the girl and walked away down the crowded city street. End of flashback. Rainer, Issei muttered, recognizing the fallen angel. Oh, it is you, that piece of shit human from New York. Rainer said as she scratched the top of her head. You probably know why I'm here, and you also know why I want Asia, so I unfortunately can't let you live. She declared as she lifted 2 light spears into the air, before throwing them down at Issei. Nice try. Issei taunts as the light spears shattered a few feet away from him and Asia. I created a barrier around me that filters out red light, your attacks can't hurt me. Red light, huh? Rainer asked before a devious smile appeared across her face. Good to know. Suddenly 2 more spears of light, one yellow and one pink, flew from behind Issei, easily penetrating the boy's spear and skewering the boy in 2 places. One just through the shoulder and the other through his left leg. Issei. Asia shrieked as the boy fell to the ground, his body weakened from quick blood loss. Then Raynor landed directly in front of Issei and created a light spirit which she aimed directly for the boy's head, but before she could end things. "Wait." Asia cried out. "Please. I'll go with you quietly, just don't hurt him anymore." The blonde nun begged. "What do I care about?" Raynor said with a shrug before her light spirit disappeared and she wrapped a willing Asia up with her wings. "He's dead anyway," she declared as she flew off, followed by 2 more fallen angels. Wait, Issei groaned as he reached out to the fleeing fallen angels, but they were too fast. Before Issei could catch his bearings they had vanished. Ugh, Issei groaned as he pushed himself up, using solid light to create bandages around his wounded areas. "What's your plan, partner?" Yinglong asked in a concerned voice. "I'm gonna save Asia," Issei declared as he began to limp forward. "But I gotta do something first." That evening, Ria's clubroom. Wham! Wham! 2 hard knocks at the large door sent out a sound that echoed throughout the clubhouse. Riaz and her peerage sat around sipping tea as a small smile crept across the red-haired devil's face. "About time." "President." The Honorable Kiba stood up. "Shall I greet him?" "No, let me greet our newest family member myself," she said confidently as she marched herself over to the door and she quickly opened it. "Welcome Issei Haidu to my whack." Riaz was met by the sound of her diary hitting the floor of her clubroom and she looked up to find Issei barely standing, with a large amount of blood oozing out from under his bandages. "Need help," he managed to grunt out before his legs finally gave out. Wham! Winced as a threaded needle plunged into his shoulder, the thread looped around through the other side of his wound and soon the injury caused by the fallen angels began to close, but every time the needle punctured his scream, Issei let out a sharp cry. "Ooh oh. Youch. Wow, I never pegged you for a screamer," Akeno chuckled as she continued to stitch up Issei's shoulder. "Not usually a screamer," Issei said as he made a pained expression due to another round of stitching. "I just don't like needles." "No need to get all defensive, I think it's cute," Akeno said as she drove the needle once more into Issei's skin, getting the boy to jump in pain. "I'm almost done with your shoulder, but the other wound is in a more delicate place." Akeno said, a reference to the wound in Issei's upper leg. "For that I'm gonna need you to remove your pants," Akeno added playfully. "You're kidding, right?" "Ouch." Issei shrieked, causing Akeno to chuckle even louder, and just then Riaz busted through the door, interrupting their stitching session. "You wanna know something?" an angered Riaz said with her arms crossed, not even looking at Issei while she spoke. "I warned you that if you weren't gonna join my peerage that you should get out of town before you cause trouble, but now I know I shouldn't have given you 2 days to get out, because it seems that you're almost as good at making a mess for me as you are at stealing." Arya sighed before quickly recompassing herself. "Why exactly should I help you? You and your group seem like good people." "Yep." Issei answered honestly. Either due to his pain or desperation or both, his snarky personality seemed to have melted away. At least for the moment. "Most devils I've met wouldn't let a thief live after he tried to steal from them, something about pride I guess. Even if I'm reading too deeply into this and you guys are a bunch of jerks, I really have nowhere else to go. Asia doesn't have much time. Some girl you've only just met, a girl who serves the church no less." Ria's eyes narrowed. "You don't owe this girl anything, and those fallen angels already put more than enough holes in you, why would you go back? I know what Raynor is gonna do to her, there's only a few ways to steal someone's sacred gear, and there are none in which the original host survives," Issei explained. "It shouldn't matter that she's a member of the church, it also shouldn't matter how little time I've spent with her. She doesn't deserve to die." Riaz walked over to Issei and bent down to make direct eye contact with the boy. "When I asked you to join my family yesterday, I was very disappointed with your answer. Not only because you refused me but the reason you refused. I gave what you were looking for and I, along with the rest of my peerage, expected you to take your prize and run. I knew you wouldn't leave." Akeno cheerfully defended herself as she plunged her needle deep into Issei's skin, getting another wince out of the boy. "You and I had a spark between us after all, Get it? Regardless of what Akeno may have believed, you certainly surprised me when you didn't skip town last night. I was half hoping you decided to reconsider my offer." Riaz laid out bluntly. "Any chance you thought about that offer, you returned my book to me after all. I suppose this means your deal with my brother is off." "Yeah, it's off," Issei said with a sigh. "All that's left is telling him myself. The thief who never fails gives up the payday of his life for the sake of a nun and a few devils," Riaz reiterated. "I can't imagine that'll look good to potential clients. Are you really ready to risk your reputation as a thief? She must be special. In all honesty, I could have retired almost a year and a half ago, and I would have had enough money to live comfortably for the next 100 years. It was always supposed to be just about the money, but for some reason I couldn't hang it up. They called me the greatest to ever do it, even you prideful devils came crawling to me because they knew I'd get the job done, and something about that kept me going. I always prided myself as never allowing a single casualty." No one's getting hurt, is what I'd always thought to myself. I could be worse off as a person, so that makes things okay, even though I knew it wasn't right, but still, I couldn't stop myself. Maybe this is what I need, maybe I'll find what I'm really supposed to do with my life. Issei soberly admitted. But this isn't about me, it's about Asia and she needs help. She's already dealt with so many awful things in her life, but somehow she's managed to come out the other side a better person. She's a nun and she chose to heal a devil. That's how good of a person she is, and she doesn't deserve what Rainer is planning to do with her. She's my friend. Issei declared as he pushed himself back up to his feet. And I'm gonna go save her with or without your help. While I don't condone theft, there is one aspect of your lifestyle that I as well as most other devils agree with. Ria said as she pulled a piece of paper, contract, out of thin air. Nothing in this world comes for free, if you want our help then it'll come at a price. There's only one thing you have that I want, pledge your soul to my house, and I will happily provide my aid. Issei carefully examined the piece of paper in the young devil's hand. So it's actually a soul contract? Isn't that a little cardony? Issei asked with a raised eyebrow. I don't have. Before Issei could finish, Akeno held a fancy ballpoint pen out to the young man. I'm gonna have to talk to my manager before I sign anything. Yinglong, what do you think? It's your life, though it may be nice to have a host that lasts more than a handful of years. Who knows when the next host will possess both eyes. Immortality can be a pretty useful thing, I say go for it. The dragon god answered aloud, shocking all the devils. Immortality, nobody told me about that. Issei quickly wrote his name down on the sheet of paper. You probably should have just led with that. Riaz happily rolled the sheet of paper up in her hands before it magically disappeared. With that, your soul is mine. Normally I would immediately begin your reincarnation, but I believe that rescuing your friend takes priority. Let's get to work. Yeah. Issei echoed in agreement. Don't worry Asia, we're coming to save you. Later, Asia's church. Creak. The door to the large church was slowly pushed open as Issei, followed timidly by Kaneko and Kiba, made their way into the dark building. Are you sure it was a good idea to just go through the front door? A nervous Kiba chimed in. I understand you're new to this and you're in a hurry to save your friend, but this feels pretty reckless regardless. Trust me, breaking and entering is nothing new to me. Issei admitted as he bent down and placed his hand down onto the wooden floor. His blue eyes began to glow as a weak gust of wind expanded across the floor in all directions, and Issei's eyes narrowed as he turned to his left. There. What a surprise. A bunch of shitty devils are here to keep little old me company. Ha ha ha. A blond man with a twisted expression, dressed in priest robes and carrying a short sword with a blade of solid light and a small pistol, leapt out from behind a pew. As soon as the attacker became visible, Issei shifted his body towards him and extended his arm outward, pointing his middle and index finger at the pouncing priest. A small, focused blast of blue lightning flew out from Issei's fingers and collided with the armed man, immediately silencing him and sending him down to the ground with a thud. Kiba approached the immobilized priest and bent down in front of him, placing his hand over the foe's slightly open mouth. He's breathing. Kiba confirmed. You paralyzed him. How did you know he was there? Kaneko asked with what could be considered a curious expression, though it wasn't that different from how she traditionally looked. The wind told me. When I sent that gust of air throughout the church, I noticed resistance in the shape of a human coming from the area where he was standing. Air fills out the total area of its container, so it's a useful tool when it comes to mapping out unfamiliar locations when I'm on a job. It also told me that there's a secret passage behind that shelf. Issei pointed out as he chopped down with his arm, creating a blade that sliced the shelf in question in half, revealing a secret staircase. Good job, thief. Akeno said with a small smile as she, followed by Kiba, made her way down the mysterious passage. Thanks I guess. Issei muttered back, confused, but he quickly took a deep breath and refocused himself. Issei clenched his fists, and the whites of his eyes began to crack before falling off completely, revealing his emperor's eyes in their true form. Don't worry Asia, I'm coming to save you. Later. Issei, Kaneko and Kiba crept down the secret staircase until eventually came to a large room where multiple people covered head to toe with long black robes stood in front of a large menacing set of stairs. Atop said stood Rainer as she gestured towards a large glowing green cross that an unconscious Asia was strapped to, her clothes ripped and tattered and her body bruised and scratched. Asia, Issei muttered sorrowfully. We're too late. Kaneko added as she looked on in terror. Welcome devils, you're just in time. Rainer taunted as she held out a pair of glowing emerald rings. For my moment of triumph. Bitch. Issei called back, his fists clenched as he gritted his teeth with rage. Triumph my ass. Issei roared as he charged towards the staircase. Deal with him, Rainer demanded with a snap of her fingers, and the hooded man turned to Issei as dozens of light blades erupted around him. Like hell. Issei leapt into the air as he pointed his arms down at the group of exorcists, before firing a powerful gust of wind to the ground that knocked the entire group down. Issei then used the strength of his gust to launch himself onto the platform with Rainer and Asia. "Issei, you came for me?" Asia muttered weakly. "You and I really are friends then?" "Thank you, Issei," Asia finished before she slowly began to close her eyes. "Good job making it here. It's truly commendable." Rainer continued to taunt as she slipped the green rings on her fingers. "I know it would be almost impossible to ask any more, but imagine how truly grateful Asia would have been if you'd arrived only a few minutes sooner." Issei's brow began to twitch with rage. "I'm sick of this shit," Issei declared with angry eyes before firing another powerful blast of air at the scantily clad fallen angel, knocking her against a nearby wall. "Asia?" Issei cried out as he began to remove her from the glowing cross, lying her down on the ground but keeping her head elevated. "Come on, Asia, stay with me. You gotta get up." Issei kept talking to her even though he knew there was no use. "She's cold. No human can survive the loss of their sacred gear, but there's gotta be something I can do." "Issei." Kiba, who was currently locked swords with one of the cloaked figures. "Nothing you can do for her down here. Get her upstairs. Maybe the president can think of something." "Right. Thanks, Kiba." Issei called out as he began to leap towards the exit, strong gusts of wind carrying him forward. Issei quickly made his way up the stairs until he was back in the main building of the church, where he laid Asia down on one of the pews and frantically began to look back and forth through the church. Guess Riaz is still busy rounding up Rainer's posy outside. Talk about inconvenience. "Well, Issei, looks like it's up to you." Issei thought as he began rubbing his hands together. Blue sparks started to appear on his palm. "Clear," Issei declared as he placed both hands down on Asia's chest, charging her nervous system up with electricity, but it did nothing to start her breathing. "Shit," Issei said under his breath as he began to rub his hands together again. Come on. Come on." Issei muttered to himself before shocking Asia once again, but there was still no effect. "You have to wake up, Asia. I sold my soul for this. I can't have been too late." Issei continued to apply shocks, but there was no effect and he changed up his tactics, pinching Asia's nose and opening her mouth. Issei then placed his lips onto Asia's and began to pump fresh air into the girl's lungs, but when he reached down to her wrist to check the nun's pulse he felt nothing. "Oh no." Issei's eyes went wide as he backed away from the lifeless girl. "No, no, 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 no," Issei said over and over as his eyes remained fixed on Asia. It's not fair this should have happened, not to her. If this had to happen, then why didn't it happen to Asia? There are a million scumbags out there with pieces of junk sacred gears that you could have taken, but why her? Asia was good. I know a thing or two about rare things, and genuine goodness in a human being is by far the rarest thing on earth." Issei's lip began to quiver and tears started to well up in the boy's eyes, but after a long deep breath, Issei managed to calm himself. "Issei, I'm sorry." "I'm sorry too." Rainer chirped in as she sat on a pew behind Issei. The sudden appearance of the fallen angel reignited the boiling blood in Issei's heart. "I truly am, she was one of the good ones. You know how it is, for those humans burdened with the sacred gear, and normal life is out of the question. This was almost inevitable. If I hadn't done it, someone else surely would have, perhaps even the church she loved so much itself could have very well been her demise. It's sad really." Issei wanted to fight back against what Rainer was saying, but he couldn't argue with the point she was making. "What are you still doing here? You've got what you want, just leave already." Issei roared back. "Seriously? You don't want to fight back?" Rainer raised an eyebrow at Issei's actions. "I was hoping to try out the effectiveness of my newly acquired sacred gear, but I guess I should have expected as much from the world's greatest thief. I'm sure that shit happens, but as long as it doesn't happen to me, mentality is what helps you sleep at night after you sell magic weapons to murderous psychopaths. What'll beating you up accomplish?" Issei cried back in his defense. "Asia's gone, but there's no reason to pile bodies. I'm not a murderer. So why don't you just quit while you're ahead?" "DFFFF. Ha 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 ha." Rainer bursted out laughing, getting Issei glare back at her. "Not a murderer, are you serious? What do you think happens when you give magic artifacts to creepy humans and jealous devils? You're a murderer by proxy and your death toll is in the thousands, and tonight you've added another body." Issei's eyes widened as he focused on Rainer's last few words. "What the hell are you talking about? You killed Asia. You can't pen that on me." "Are you sure about that?" Rainer asked with a sinister smirk. "For the longest time I lived in service of an acquaintance of yours, the brilliant Governor General Azazel. He used to speak so highly of you, he was fascinated with your abilities, and the way you used them would bring the biggest smile to his beautiful face. Every time he spoke of the world's greatest thief, his eyes would shine with excitement. I wanted to be the reason for that sparkle in his wonderful eyes, so I figured if I could steal something great for him that he'd admire me as well. I went to you for help that night, and while you didn't come off as particularly helpful, you told me everything I needed to know." As Raynor continued to talk, Issei slowly began to piece things together. Flashback. "You can't steal sacred gear without killing the user, and I'm a thief, not a hitman," Issei explained coldly, but didn't seem to notice as a small evil grin appeared on Raynor's face. End of flashback. "Oh no," Issei muttered as everything began to make sense. "So I figured if there's no way to remove a sacred gear that spares the original owner's life, then there's no point trying to be Gentile," Raynor declared. "In summary, you're not only the inspiration for poor Asia's demise, but it's also because of you that Asia suffered greatly before her eventual death." Enough. Krakuam. The crashing sound of thunder could be heard through the church's walls as tears finally began to fall from Issei's eyes. "It's not my fault. You could have just left her alone." A small circle of wind began to swirl beneath Issei's feet as more and more tears began to flow from his eyes. "I know I've done bad things, you don't need to remind me. Maybe it was so easy for me to sign up with those devils because I'm hellbound already, but I won't let you pin this on me." Issei roared as lightning began to surge through the air in the church and a stray blast zapped Raynor's cheek. "Ah!" Raynor roared before placing a glowing green hand over her burn wound. Soon the mark began to fade and her skin was back the way it was before. "Look at that, no matter the injury I'll emerge unscathed, it's truly the ultimate power. Too good to give up, even to Azazel." "Shut up." Issei roared as the wind swirling around him intensified until it formed a miniature tornado around Issei. "I don't care what you say. I'm done turning a blind eye. I don't care how much power you steal. You won't be able to heal yourself from the beating I'm about to dish out. I swear." Meanwhile, outside the church. "Ugh, we give up already." A beaten fallen angel, dressed like an old maid, let out a groan as she along with another fallen angel wearing a red trench coat-like outfit, both laid on the forest floor, immobilized by pain. "I may be mistaken, but I don't think I ever said surrender was an option," Ria said with her arms crossed. "Akeno. I'll let you do the honors." "Well, if it isn't my lucky day." Akeno, who was dressed as a Japanese shrine priestess, said with a vicious smile as sparks of lightning began to emit from all over her body, but suddenly drip. A small drop of water fell on Akeno's nose, getting the devil's attention. "Rain. Was it supposed to rain today?" Akeno asked as she turned to Rias. "Rain, huh?" Ria said to herself, not really making much of it until she looked up to see the sky was totally dark and large bolts of lightning began to dart across the sky. Krakum. Whoosh. A powerful gust of wind blew through the forest, violently shaking the trees and even blowing up Ria's skirt. "Ahhh." Issei shrieked with a mixture of surprise and embarrassment, and then suddenly, as if out of nowhere, a massive amount of hard rain began to pour down from above. "What the hell is this weather?" Ria's Akeno spoke up, her eyes filled with shock and worry. "You might want to take a look at this." "Look at what?" Ria's eyes eventually came to where Akeno was pointing and discovered where the old church had been. There was now a massive vortex of powerful wind and dark clouds, and the powerful patterns of blue lightning surged across the vicious weather phenomenon. "Issei. Is that you?" Thanks for watching this video. If you really enjoy this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. Don't forget to support and follow the JCT1345 for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story link in the description. See you in the next video. Goodbye.